Okay then, so in our project so far, we haven't talked about state or data much. Now, when we talk about the state of a component, we just mean the data being used in that component at that point in time. Now, that state could be an array of values, booleans, strings, objects, or any other data that our component uses. Now, we created some variables and we used them in our templates before, which worked. But what if we had variables or data that we wanted to change over time or in reaction to some event like a user clicking a button? Well, let's first of all try that. So notice at the minute I still have this button which references this handle click function, and there's nothing in there at the minute. Now let's create a variable. So I'm going to say let name equal to Mario. And then what I want to do is output this name inside the template. So p tag and then output the name. Now if I preview this, it's going to show that name and it works. But what if when I click on this button I want to change this name? Well, let's try it. It references this function, so inside the function I could take the name and update it to Luigi, like so. And then what do you think will happen? Will it update here in the template where we output it once we've clicked the button and it changes? Well, let's give this a whirl. I'm going to go over here and refresh, and if I click this button, it doesn't change in the template. Now the name itself changes, and I can demo that by logging it to the console. So this value right here, that changes. So if we see this, click me, we see Luigi. It just doesn't update in the template. Now it doesn't update in the template because the variable that we created over here is not reactive. Now by that I mean that React doesn't watch it for changes or react to it changing. So when the value does change, it doesn't trigger React to re-render the template with that new value inside it. Nothing happens, and we continue to see the old value in the browser. So in order for this to work, we have to make the value reactive so that when it changes, React detects that and it re-renders the template where we output that value and we see the new value in the browser. Now to do this in React, we use something called a hook, and that hook is called useState. So a hook in React is a special type of function that does a certain job, and you can tell a hook by its name because it starts with the word use. So the useState hook gives us a way to make a reactive value and also provides us with a way to change that value whenever we want. So in order to use this useState hook, first of all we need to import it at the top of the file. So we say import, then curly braces, because we're going to destructure the useState hook, and that is from the React library. So this grabs us the function from the React library, and now we can use it inside our component. So let me just comment out this stuff right here and also delete this inside handle click, and instead we're going to make a reactive value using useState. And the way we do this is by saying useState, which is a function, so we invoke it and we give this state an initial value. So for example, Mario. Now we want to store this in some kind of value because at the minute we're not storing it, we're just invoking the function. So the way we do that is by saying const, and then we use array destructuring to grab two values that this hook returns to us. So first of all, the first value is this initial value, so we can call it what we want. I'm going to call it name, and the second value is a function which we can use to change that value, and most of the time you're going to see this called set and then whatever we called the value, so in my case name. So now if I was to use this value in the template, it's going to get us whatever the value of that state is, so Mario to begin with, and then if we want to change that value we can use this function to do it. So I could say down here set name and pass in a new value, so I could change that to Luigi, and this value is reactive, this state value, so if it changes at any point it's going to change in the template as well. So when we use this function to change the value, that triggers React to re-render the component, and when it re-renders we have that new value of name because it's been updated. Alright, so let me test this out. I'm going to save it and come over to the browser, and now if we click on this we see it changes to Luigi. Awesome. So now this is reactive. So we can use this hook as many times as we want in a component for different values. And this value can be anything. It can be an array, it can be an object, it can be a Boolean, or it could be a number. It really doesn't matter what the data type of the state is that we're using. So let's do another example, which is going to be a number. I'm going to call this age. So I'll use array destructuring to say the value is called age, and the function I'll call set age, and we'll set it equal to useState again, and we give this an initial value which I'm going to set to be 25, right? And now I can output that. I'm going to say name is, and then output the age, and then I'll put years old after that. So this should say Mario is 25 years old to begin with. If I save it and refresh, then we can see Mario is 25 years old. Now, if I click the button, I want to use the set age function to update this to be 30. And also remember, we're updating the name as well. So it should now say, after we click, Luigi is 30 years old. So let's give this a whirl. I'm going to refresh. And if I click on this, it says Luigi is 30 years old. So when you need a reactive value, something that might change at some point, we use the useState hook to do that. We pass in an initial value and we can output that value in the template, and then we just call the set function, the second value we get in this array, to update it, and that triggers a re-render, and the new value is going to be output to the browser in this template. So we're going to be using this hook a lot as we go forward.